There's nothing like a brand new car from Brunswick Auto Mart. Save big this month with deals like this. Don't miss Jeep Adventure Days and lease a 2022 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 with heated seats and steering for just $349 a month. Or lease the all-new 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 4x4 with heated leather seats for $499 a month. Brunswick Auto Mart. Car buying made truly simple.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Believeland Prep podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Slez. With me, as always, Joe Yule. What's going on, Joe?
Not much, Kev. I'm excited to be back on the show. Took maybe a week or two off. Kevin and I are kind of feeling underneath the weather a little bit, and then just bad schedules and things like that. So sorry about that, but we're excited to get back to you guys for the state semis.
Yeah, we've got 6 state semifinal games to go over coming up this Friday and Saturday. So get us started. Let's go.
I'll kick it off with probably the biggest one that everybody's talking about: Hoban and Massillon, Washington. Region 5 winner Hoban and Region 7 winner Massillon, Washington. Hoban comes into this with, Lamar Sperling, right? That's the story, right? Mr. Football bid. Since Coach Tim Tyrell came to Hoban in 2014, he's had a absolute standout record of 115 wins and 19 losses. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. Seeing those numbers the whole entire time, but they've only suffered one loss all year, and that's to a team that we'll talk about later as well, to St. Ed's. Week 10 lost to them 40-21. If there's one team that's probably going to stop Lamar Sperling, it's going to be St. Ed's with Michael Kilbane and Wyatt Gideon, who are 2 Division I commits. Playing defensive end for the Eagles. But for the Knights, it's really going to be, can you get Lamar Sperling going? How good can your quarterback go? We talked about at the beginning of the year, Hoban's junior quarterback. He's from West Virginia area, transferred into Hoban this year. Family moved and everything, but kid can sling the rock. I think it really depends on how much he can get going. I went and watched the Hoban-Hudson game last week. God, is Lamar Sperling just good, though? I can talk about their quarterback being on. I can talk about this. We can talk about Massillon, and we will. But Lamar Sperling is so good. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely insane to watch this kid play. And he was our runner-up for Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So for right reasons and everything. But looking at the other side, Massillon, they're led by Coach Nate Moore. He's sitting at a record right now of 12-1 on the season. Their only loss is to Archbishop Moeller down in Cincinnati, week 1. They lost that game, I believe, 31-49. And that Moeller team, very talented, playing in the state semi games themselves right now. They'll be playing Springfield local this week. If anybody remembers, week 1, Springfield local was supposed to play St. Ignatius at Byers Field. That game got canceled. Springfield being the runner-up from last season when Eds won. So, Springfield having that chip on their shoulder, Moeller having that chip on their shoulder, knowing that their only loss is to an Eds team. Or sorry, to an Eds team. And understanding that if they both win, they get to see each other again. Springfield wanting to get that revenge. But Massillon, they're special. They got quarterback Jalen Slaughter. He has a 55% completion rate, 1,800 yards passing this season for 23 touchdowns. Their running back is a absolute beast, and his name is Will Trell, maybe, I think. Harrison, sorry if I butcher that. He leads the way on the ground for the Tigers with over 2,000 rushing yards and 30 touchdowns on the season. Receiving is really track standout Ardell Banks. This kid's a sophomore, I believe. He was at the state track meet last year as a freshman. When I coached at university this past season, we got a chance to go down to Massillon for a 7-on-7, and Our team did a 7-on-7 against Massillon, and God is Ardell fast. And can Jalen sling it to him? Jalen being a lefty quarterback, some people say it's a little controversial and everything, but the kid can play. He can play, right? I mean, arguably one of the most athletically gifted players ever, and Michael Vick was a left-handed quarterback. Jalen Slaughter, obviously not Mike Vick, but lefty quarterbacks aren't anything to be ashamed of. But Ardell Banks with 37 receptions on the season, just under 800 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns. So, this Massillon team is tough. I think for Massillon, it's, how can we control the pace of the game? Because when they played Eds back in week 4 or 5, that's what got them the win, I believe. I think they were able to control the pace. I think they were able to stay calm and collective when bad things happen. There were blocked PATs on both sides. There were special teams plays that made huge shifts in momentum. I think they have to just settle down. Massillon has to understand they've been here before numerous times against Hoban in the state final. So it's not like they, like these teams are, it's not like these teams are strangers to each other, right? They played each other year in and year out in the state championship. I'm honestly shocked that OHSAA is allowing this to happen in the semis. But we, like we all know, if Avon would have beat Toledo Central Catholic, then we'd be looking at Hoban and Avon at Byersfield actually right now. Avon Lake. But I'm excited for this matchup. I think for Hoban and Coach Tyrell, it's just going to be, how do you contain this high-powered offense and, be able to, put some points up and get Lamar Sperling going, because you got to get that man going early so he can just keep on going, because kid's stamina doesn't run out. So, he can go all game long, but you got to get him going early. You got to punch him in the mouth first and keep going, play after play after play, 6 seconds every time.
All right, so heading out to Division 4, we've got the undefeated Glenville Tarblooders at 13-0, taking on Jefferson area Falcons, who come in at 11-3. Looking at Glenville and their playoff run, started out with a 46-8 win over Napoleon, 43-6 over Bellevue, and a total dismantling of Elyria Catholic, 54-7. And this past week, at a close contest in the regional final, came on top over Van Wert, 42-33. You look at them. Their offense, Deontay Rucker, their quarterback, and Deshaunte Jones, the running back, who, as a junior, has 3 Division I offers already. He's very good. And wide receiver Demario Witten, obviously legendary head coach Ted Ginn Sr. He's been here before. Glenville turns out Division I and NFL players on a constant basis. So, they're a big-time program. Looking at Jefferson, their playoff wins over Poland 14-13, Girard 26-20, Canton South 49-35, and then West Branch 41-37. They pretty much neutralized that passing game of West Branch, and through the shield, all the big numbers he put up this year, setting the passing records. But they pretty much held him in check. Through the air, he had some yards and some touchdowns on the ground, but they held that passing game down. And they're led by their quarterback, who's a two-way threat, can beat you with his arm and his feet, Grant Hitchcock. Also, running back Luke Fantish and wide receiver Cade Boxar. So that should be a pretty good matchup between these two.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm probably rocking with Glenville. In all honesty. That Glenville team's good, man. They're really good. Yeah. There's nothing to say bad about Jefferson. That Jefferson team's very talented. Their coach is a great guy. Their team's very talented, but Glenville's good, really good. But looking at another very, very good matchup is St. Ed's versus Gahanna Lincoln or Gahanna Lincoln. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm sorry if you're you are a Lions fan. If I pronounced it wrong, but this is going to be the first time that these schools meet since 1976. Last time they met, the Lions actually won 28-zip against St. Ed's, shut them out. This is going to be the first time that the Lions are in the state semifinal since 1976, 1982. This will be the first Final Four appearance that they have. This team is, the Lions, they're special. They're led by head coach Bruce Ward. The Lions come into the game at 13-1. Their only loss to an eliminated Centerville team who lost to Springfield, who we talked about earlier, coming for revenge against St. Ed's, right? notable wins are their 2 wins over New Albany, week 7 and 14. New Albany finished 10 and 4. And these Lions, they're led by Central District Player of the Year, Dior Hubbard, junior running back, who has over 2,200 yards rushing and 25 touchdowns on the season. So the kid's a standout player, but like we mentioned from St. Ed's, Michael Kilbane, Wyatt Gideon, right? Michael Kilbane being a Northwestern commit, Wyatt Gideon being a Coastal Carolina commit. This team's just loaded with talent. Casey Bullock, Kyan Mason, Marvin Bell, Ben Roback, who has 25 plus Division I offers from schools that include Penn State, West Virginia University, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State. This Ed's team is absolutely loaded. And they're led by legend coach Tom Lombardo. The Eagles, they're soaring in a way through the playoffs right now. They really haven't had a standstill. They had a closer game against St. Ignatius week 13 in the regional semifinals, but last week they win the region by shutting out a very difficult Menor team, 27-0, and they win the Region 1 title. The Eagles, they're led by Casey Bullock, who's thrown for 79% completion rate in the playoffs. This season, he has 152.02 QB rating. He's thrown for 1,600 plus yards and 16 touchdowns in the air, and he rushed for over 850 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. And Casey Bullock, he's a special player. And then, you talk about Marvin Bell, their running back, and he's got 1,500 plus yards in the season. And you want to add along with that 24 touchdowns. He has 2 receiving touchdowns as well. And, you're already thinking oh my God, so much firepower, right? Like Casey Bullock and Marvin Bell. And then you add Kyan Mason into the mix, and the kid's just unbelievable. He has 40 receptions for just under 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. And you're like, oh my God, so much talent. Wyatt Gideon, Ben Roebuck up front for the linemen. Marvin Bell, Kyan Mason, Casey Bullock, Wyatt Gideon, right? All these guys, Michael Kilbane. And then you got Kai Calvin last week, or Colvin, who's coming off a 2-interception game against Menor for a stellar, shutout in the regional finals. It's absolutely insane how talented the St. Ed's team is. The Eagles are going to be, I think the Eagles are going to fly right through the Lions, in all honesty.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a tough out for sure.
And that game's being played at Mansfield.
So looking at Division 6, we got the Kirtland Hornets at 14-0. Taking on the Fort Frye Cadets at 13-1. They are out of Beverly, Ohio, and Washington County. You look at Kirtland, and you talk about soaring through the playoffs. There are 4 games. They beat Independence 48-6. United 48-6. 2 straight 48-6 wins. Dalton 33-0, and then this past week 30-0 shutout of Mogador. So that all adds up to 159-12. Outscoring their opponents in the playoffs.
And the crazy thing is we've talked about how talented that Mogador team is too, right? Yeah. 3-star Mason Williams, OU commit, talented receiving core, very good quarterback, legendary coach in Matt Adorney. Obviously though, you got Tyler Levert there, right?
Right. Yeah. So regional semi and finals, they outscored their opponents 63-0. They completely rolled everybody. And, of course, they're led by their 2,000-yard rushers, Tommy Gogolin, who last week against Mogador, 16 carries, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, also had an interception on defense. And Rocky Alfieri, who was our player of the week a couple weeks ago against Dalton, had 25 carries, 256 for 3 touchdowns. So, they're a machine, both offensively and defensively. But look at Fort Frye. Their wins in the playoffs over Elgin, 57-6. 71-20 over Shenandoah. Dawson Bryant, they beat 27-14, and then Bel Air 35-28. They're averaging almost 48 points a game in the playoffs, so another high-powered offense. Their only loss this year was to Lindsley out of West Virginia, who's 10-1. So they've played a pretty solid schedule and come out.
Who's a very good team. That Lindsay team is very talented.
But they're led by Clayton Miller, their quarterback, and then the running back Owen Brown last week in their win over Bel Air. They had 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it should be a good matchup for Kirtland's toughest test to date. But the way they're rolling, they're going to be tough to stop.
Yeah, no question about it. Kirtland's Kirtland, right? Whatever region they get put in, you kind of know that it's a tough out for them to get, for any team to get past them, right? They're very difficult. And that game's going to be played at South Ranges Stadium, in Canfield, Ohio. And then we got Holy Name and Canfield, winners of Region 9 and Region 10. Holy Name coming into the game at 11-2 with a huge win last week for the Region 10 title over their rival Padua, 56-21. Holy Name's led by head coach Dan Wondolowski. No official stats on the Green Wave or anything, but they're led by senior quarterback and senior running back Javon Williams and Christian Sanchez, I think is how you pronounce that. The Green Wave played a tough schedule this whole season. They played 7 out of their 10 teams that they was on their regular season schedule made the playoffs, and 2 out of those 7 teams were their 2 losses, and their 2 losses being to Clyde and to Elyria Catholic in weeks 2 and 3, and Clyde being an 8-4 team at the end of the season, and Elyria Catholic obviously getting knocked out by Jefferson in the second round of the playoffs, like you talked about earlier, Kevin. But the Green Wave, they're a tough team. They're a very well coached team. They know how to win in the playoffs year after year. This is going to be, I believe, their 3rd year in a row in the regional finals, at least. Obviously this is the state semis, but looking at last week, right? I think this is their 3rd year in a row that they're playing in the regional championship. So, this team knows how to win. They have tradition. They have a standard set, and that's the standard for the Green Wave. They're trying to raise the standard though. Make it to the next level, like every school does. And Canfield, they're led by coach Mike Pavlansky. They come into this game 12-1. The Cardinals, very tough, previously beating last week for the Region 9 regional title. They're beating back-to-back state champions Chardon. And that team's a very well coached team. Coach Machuit does a great job over there with it. But Canfield, ended up winning in the end. They've only had 1 loss on the whole season to a tough Youngstown Cheney team that earned the 5 seed in the region that Canfield won. And this Canfield team is tough. They play fast. They're big, physical. I'm excited for this game, and this game is going to be played at Euclid Stadium.
All right. Last but not least, we've got Division 7. Another Green Wave team, Newark Catholic Green Wave, coming in at 11-1 against the Warren JFK Eagles, who are 13-1 on the season. Looking at Newark and their playoff wins: Bishop Rosecrans 49-0, Notre Dame 35-0. Waterford 35-7, and River 27-12. So they're another team that's kind of rolled along here, outscoring their opponents 146-17. They're led by quarterback Miller Hitchison, running back Michael Hess, and wide receiver Grant Moore. And for Warren JFK, they beat Fairport Harding 37-9, Springfield 13-6, Southern 35-0, and then got a late touchdown to beat Danville 22-21 this past week. Caleb Hadley, their quarterback, is one of their standout players, along with running back Thomas Easton and wide receiver Aiden Rossi, who actually had the big touchdown late in that Danville game. JFK is another team that seems to always be there.
And no doubt about it. JFK is a historic program. Ran very well. Next to a normal juggernaut and making the playoffs with Warren G. Harding and Warren as well, kind of sharing that. New York Catholic, they're no stranger to the state semis either, though. It's a very prestige program also. There's a lot of people saying that Newark could win by a pretty decent margin.
Well, they've done so pretty much all their playoff games so far. So.
But yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm excited for this whole set. And just so you guys have it again, that Hoban Massillon Washington game is going to be played at Akron U at Precision Stadium. The St. Ed's Gahanna Lincoln game is going to be played at Mansfield Stadium. Canfield and Holy Name is going to be played at Euclid. Jefferson and Glenville is going to be played at Canal Fulton Stadium. Kirtland and Fort Frye will be at South Range, and then Warren JFK and Newark Catholic will be at Orville. Jefferson, so Division 4, 7 and 6, 4, 6, and 7, I believe, or 4, 5, 6, and 7 are playing on Saturday, and then 1 through 3 are going to play on Friday night, and that's statewide for the most part, just based off field availability. I want to make sure that we tell you guys that, we're going to be picking up on the basketball coverage as well for high school, both boys and girls. Try and tap into a little bit of wrestling for you guys, maybe a little bit of hockey every here and there, but just really try to give you guys as much, coverage as you possibly can. So, make sure you're liking, retweeting, sharing, shouting out. Anything helps. And make sure you guys are all, following us and everything for all of the drawings that we're doing with, autographed Cleveland merchandise, a bunch of different stuff. And, with it being that time of year and everything, just very, very thankful for the following that you guys have given us and the support that we have from our sponsors and our high school interns. I don't think our high school interns get enough knowledge for what they do for this company, or they're in college. But Zachary Nolan from Kent State, Brady Hamilton from Kent State, Jamore Golden from Kent State, three phenomenal interns, do a lot of coverage for us. Quinn Minnick from Lorain Community College, they've done amazing coverage for us. Quinn's going to have a huge slate this upcoming weekend at the first inaugural tournament of the Cleveland Basketball Classic. He'll be accompanied by Marshawn Powers, who wrote an amazing recap on the Canfield charting game. If you want to go check that out, Marshawn's a very, very talented writer, very talented broadcaster. So, we're excited. We're thankful to have those guys, and we're excited to grow with you guys throughout the whole entire winter season, spring season, and everything.
Yeah, it's like our first year getting into high school sports. We started out with slow with football and gradually, picked up more games and our coverage as we went along. But basketball will be huge. Like Joe mentioned, all the interns and some of our regular staff will be covering games. So we should have some pretty widespread coverage for high school basketball, both boys and girls. And like you said, hopefully some wrestling and hockey as well.
No doubt.
Pretty exciting. All right, so we'll be back next week, and we'll be talking about the state final games, and
hopefully,
hopefully nobody gets sick again. But everybody, get out and enjoy these games. I mean, it's some big games. Weather's supposed to be pretty decent, so you want to see some good football. Get out to some of these games Friday and Saturday. Other than that, everybody have a great Thanksgiving with your families. Enjoy, and we will talk to you next week.